Welcome to the LowCarbMd podcast. No one is beyond help. No one is beyond hope.
As we have always said, we are bringing you medical information and cutting-edge science, but none of this is medical advice. Please seek out input from your own doctor.
Hello and welcome to the LowCarbMd podcast. Terrell, how you doing, man? Good to see you.
I'm doing great. It's nice to be here on another Friday morning live. It's always nice to see you.
Yeah, everyone, thanks for joining us. This is always fun for us. Put us on the spot a little bit. So what's happening, Terrell? What, are you going to have a moment of silence there?
Oh, there we go. I thought you were going to lead us in prayer or something. Okay.
I'm ready to, man. You want to do that?
Yeah, looks like we got about 10, 15. Wow, we got like 15 people in today.
17,
maybe even 20 people coming in.
Yeah, cool.
That's great, guys. Okay, we have a very cool guest, somebody who is a little bit of a pioneer. We really like people who follow entrepreneurship, buck the trend, and are trying to reach people and expose them to understanding their own bodies. We have Collier. She's a basically a dietitian. She did her undergraduate at Purdue. She got her RDN, and she quickly found out that what she was doing wasn't working, and she questioned it, and she found herself self-experimenting with CGMs and on her friends, and eventually joined Dan Zavortnoy over at NutriSense, and they literally co-founded NutriSense. And how long ago was that?
About 2 years ago.
2 years ago. And then in the past 2 years, they've grown NutriSense. I know you guys are in the thousands of people now. Great app. I've used it. Hopefully we will get that similar app on the medical side, and Kara's promised me she'll do that along with Dan. So, and look, we're very happy to have you here. One, being an entrepreneur, we know it's not easy. In another sense, being a little bit of a pioneer and different, bucking the trend in dietetics. So we're very happy to have you here.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah. How did you get started in all this? Before, I know a little bit about the story about how you reached out to Dan and really co-founded NutriSense. But what inspired you to get started with dietetics, right? I mean, that must have been a story there.
Yeah, so I've been interested in nutrition my whole life. I grew up in a family where there was chronic illness that was outside of your control. Most chronic illnesses are lifestyle related, but my father had ALS, and it was one of those situations where I was just like, you should do everything you can in your control to be healthy, because being sick is awful. And so I've always been interested in nutrition my whole life, got into it really for the effort of wanting to help people. And that's where, when I started my career in the hospital system in, sick care, not necessarily healthcare, that I was really frustrated with the lack of ability to actually help people. And that's where my interest really stemmed and grew from there, is those experience working with real people and seeing that, what we're taught isn't actually helping people. And the way the system is built is not geared towards optimization or prevention, but instead, treatment. The final straw for me, I remember, is when I was working in the hospitals, and I had been working for 6 months, talking to all the leadership in the hospital, trying to get sodas removed from the patient trays. And it didn't seem like it should be something that I had to fight so aggressively for, and that nobody seemed to understand why that would be important. That's not a revolutionary thing, that sodas are bad for you, especially in somebody who is sick. And nobody really cared. Nobody was listening, even in the nutrition department. And for me, that was just kind of a final straw of where I felt like I really couldn't make a difference in the existing system. And so instead, I needed to go do my own thing and try to make a difference in a different way. So that's when I was like, all right, I got to be in a different environment and maybe create my own environment, and really started researching what is a root cause of a lot of these chronic conditions. Most people coming into the ICU that I was working with were not coming in with, a trauma or a gunshot wound. They were coming in with complications of, diabetes, lifestyle related chronic conditions. So my goal was really to figure out what is some of that root cause. And a lot of it came back to metabolic health. How is our metabolic engine running? And a lot of that stems back to glucose as our basic fuel for that metabolic engine. And that's where I came across continuous glucose monitors, which I'm sure we'll dive more into, and how interesting of a tool it was, and that it combined a very powerful and meaningful metric, which is glucose. It also combines personalization for once it's not like a one size fits all approach, because we can actually see how your body is uniquely responding. And it also includes a powerful behavior change tool because it's immediate feedback. And those are the three things that I really felt like were missing in traditional nutrition therapy.
Yeah, I'm so excited about that. What you're saying is like, when we see it, like Tro and I were trained in the same model, and we start seeing why are we giving a sliding scale insulin for the amount of carbohydrates they eat? Why don't we just cut back on the carbohydrates? And it seems so straightforward, and you see the numbers change. And I think having the continuous glucose monitor, I always thought, just think if we have these in the hospital where we could see what their sugar is all the time, and then, not poke the person all night, first of all. And second of all, let them get some rest. And second of all, like you know how to manage them. You see, when they're drinking orange juice and having Jello all the time, which is what we see in all of our diabetic patients, you think, well, what in the world's going on here?
Yeah, absolutely. The sliding scale insulin is the most, backwards concept to me. And that's what we teach people to then do at home too, is, match your carbohydrates to the amount of insulin you're injecting rather than trying to reduce that insulin or get off that insulin. So it's just a really frustrating experience.
I want to talk a little bit about, you said some really important buzzwords that kind of stick out to me. One, we've had Mark Cazella on, Dr. Mark Cazella on, who talked about getting soda out of his hospital and how it was a 2-year process. He had to undo contracts with big providers, Coca-Cola. And here you are, working with leadership as a new dietitian, trying to just improve the health of patients. But you see that, there's agendas and contracts and money involved, and it's not always easy. So you mentioned, there's a system of sick care, and that, basically the leadership wouldn't help you. A lot of times in the low carb community, we talk about this system, and people often may even say we're conspiratorial. So, in nature. So talk to me about this system of sick care that left you like, what the hell am I doing? And to the point where you're fighting, people in suits and ties to get soda off of trays. So what is the system? Because people think we're just, not conspiracy theorists. Brian, have you been called a conspiracy theorist?
I think I am a conspiracy theorist now. The more I'm around, I'm thinking all these things I thought were nuts and crazy. I'm looking like that came true. They were right on that. They were right on this. And so there's a lot of stuff we say, who's the conspiracy theorist? At some point you say, well, this doesn't make sense, because clearly, I think this is a huge part of it. The people who've attacked us the most, I think, are registered dietitian nutritionists, saying, it's malpractice to put a CGM on someone who's not diabetic. I'm like, it's the best educational tool you could possibly have. Are you kidding me? When we're talking about 88% of us being metabolically sick, I have some people they would consider healthy, and you see what spikes they get with, and really we can learn a lot. And the other spectrum is all true also. I have some people who have huge sugar fluxes because they're drinking green shakes, but they're metabolically healthy. They're very least spiking their insulin, so they're not having metabolic consequences at their age, and they're 22 years old and a triathlete. So it really shows us how we have to tailor medicine for that person in front of us.
Yeah.
Tell us about that system, and tell me about, because you saw it enough to like pick up the phone and hear a podcast with Dan and his partner and be like, I want in. I mean, so what were you escaping from? I want to get a sense, like, I want people to understand that, because it's tough. You and I know what we're talking about, but I don't think the listeners know. Brian knows. Brian knows because he sees it, because a dietitian said you should lose your license, to claim that mental health is tied to diet, right? People tell me you should lose your license because you're advocating eating meat. So we know the system, but like, I want to hear you describe it in your own words.
Yeah, and I can start with a personal story that happened to me recently. You know, I moved cities and got a new primary care physician. And really, I just go for annual visits because I want certain labs, because I like tracking them, because I want to prevent certain, you know, chronic conditions. And I went to her and asked for some really basic, like lipid panel, fasting glucose. And she was like, no, you know, you are healthy, you're young, you don't need any labs. You know, maybe in 10 years, we'll get you some basic labs. And I was like, no, that's definitely part of my right as a human trying to care about my health to have these basic labs. You know, I track them every year. How am I supposed to know how the different things I'm doing are working or not working? And to me, that's just a big moment of this is what happens all the time, every day, is I'm sure 99% of people in my situation, if they would have asked for it and the doctor said, no, you don't need it, it's like, okay, my doctor said I don't need it. You know, we trust our physicians and our healthcare providers completely because that is what we're taught, is that they are gods. And what I saw in practice is, you know, you guys are physicians. There's a lot of great physicians, but they're humans too. And if you're not willing to really always think about the person and always be critically thinking and wondering, you know, is this working? Is this not working? Rather than following the rogue steps, then it might fall short. Like, this is the most important profession, is healthcare system, because we're dealing with people's lives. And I saw a lot of people following rogue steps that are outdated and not necessarily rooted in anything that's helping people. And I didn't see people questioning that. You know, I didn't see anybody saying, is this working? Is this not working? Should I try something different? Am I listening to the client? Am I personalizing this? I didn't see that in a lot of the dietitians I worked with, a lot of the physicians I worked with, a lot of the nurses I worked with. Not that there's not great ones out there, but I was very frustrated by, it was just these outdated steps that people were just following. And anytime I tried to have dialogue about, you know, sodas, maybe we shouldn't have this on here, it's nobody wants to hear it. Nobody wants to change their way. Nobody wants to think about that preventative aspect. And what is healthcare if all you're going to do is show up when you're actually sick and get that treatment and leave, and then what? You know, I would get consults for a new diabetic who's being recommended to take insulin for the first time, check their glucose for the first time. They have no idea what they're doing. It's inpatient. I have a consult, I talk to them, and I'm like, who's described to you how to inject this insulin? They're like, my nurse kind of did, but I'm confused. I don't know what's happening. And they're just getting sent on their way without very much help. And that was very frustrating to me. You can just see how that's going to spiral, where that person is not going to have success. You know, they're not going to know what to eat. They're not going to know how to use their medication. And they're not even really sure what diabetes means, but suddenly they have it. When if we gave them the right tools and the right support, they could treat it and prevent it and reverse it. There was just so much opportunity that was completely dismissed or run over or ignored. And I just felt like nobody wanted to think about it or talk about it.
Can I ask you a quick question? What state is your primary in?
She was in Washington, D.C. area.
Washington, D.C. area. I think there's a doctor that's licensed in Maryland, North Carolina, and Virginia that you can definitely reach out to.
Oh, yeah,
Brian,
I immediately switched, but yeah.
Yeah, I think what we're up against, there's a couple of things. Number one, the doctor doesn't know what to do with the information. And that, so they're intimidated. They go, I don't know what a coronary calcium, I don't know, I'm not going to learn about this. I don't have time. And then, you know, the other problem is there's a system where when doctors order more tests, they get docked, they don't get paid as much. So I think at some point you have to say, okay, like for me, I have to go, okay, doc might pay a little bit and I'll order the test that the patient needs. I don't care. Plus, I'm saving your system right now, because when I check an insulin that you get upset about, that is my best tool I can use. I'm looking at that insulin compared to A1C, and I'm shocked at how many people, I mean, it's very rare. If I see someone who had an insulin checked on them, I'm stunned. Like there's one system, I saw one person out of 150 so far that had an insulin checked. And that was because they demanded, they kept bugging the doctor, and the doctor was cool and ordered it. But out of 150 patients from that system, only one has had an insulin. And she ruined it for me because I could have said 0, but there was one legitimately that had it done. It's amazing.
Yeah, I totally agree. And in my situation, I wasn't even asking for, anything fancy, like insulin would be considered fancy in these terms. I was asking for like a basic lipid panel and, fasting glucose level. So that really, I guess, blew my mind.
Well, we have to talk about this here. One is both Brian and I do point of care labs in our office, but two, Dave Feldman has set up a service where you can just go to ownyourlabs.com, right? I just happen to love Dave. I have no financial relationship with Dave Feldman, but you can go to Own Your Labs, literally order your labs and go get them done almost anywhere in the world for ridiculously cheap cash price. So if you want it, probably cheaper than your primary cost out in the DC area.
And also a lot of the direct primary cares have similar systems where we can order labs. Like I'll get a complete lab panel for $61. Insulin level, 3-month sugar average, all that stuff, lipid panel. It's cheap. It's ridiculous. So everyone's worried about that, and the other thing is, as a DPC plug, is that we get MRIs, CAT scans, all this stuff done very cheaply that everyone's worried about. Like, I had a lady who was with a big healthcare system. She waited 13 months to try to get an MRI of her hip. And she was telling me about what a struggle it was. And I go, if you want to pay cash, I could order it for you. $400, she's out the door, got the diagnosis, and she can get treatment now. So you struggle with your life for it. It's inhumane, in my opinion, like to keep treatments from patients or evaluations. So.
Yeah, absolutely. We got to eliminate those barriers. Okay. So you see this, terrible mess, right? You see this terrible mess, and what happened? I know you were listening to a podcast, you hear Dan, you're experimenting with CGMs, and what happens next?
Yeah, so in that kind of interim of working in the hospital system and starting NutriSense, I was working at a different nutrition software startup. So really getting interested in startups, in software specifically, but looking for something that I felt I was super passionate about and wanted to do something that I thought would help solve some of those problems I was seeing in the hospital system. So was doing my own research, as I mentioned, came across CGMs, thought they were a really interesting, powerful tool, tried it on myself, tried it on my mom, who's a pre-diabetic, or was at the time, tried it on some friends, just saw how much interpersonal differences there were. I can respond to something in a particular way where my friend, who's very similar to me, also not insulin resistant, has a totally different glucose response. Just having that really eye-opening moment of there's no one size fits all. And then seeing that information in my mom as well, who is pre-diabetic, and realizing immediately that any traditional diabetic educations didn't make any sense. She's not even the person who has an A1C of 10%, she's somebody who has it of 6%. And I can see that if we did controlled carbohydrates throughout the day from whole grains, that, she's going to have a completely dysregulated glucose. It's just not going to cut it. So realized how important of a tool this was, and really wanted to be involved in building this, had this idea. And so then when I saw Dan talking about this idea and they were starting to build it, I immediately reached out and I was like, this is very important. I'm so excited you're doing this. If you ever need help, you need someone from nutrition, I'm totally game. And it just kind of went from there, and we started building it. So we were just at the idea stage when I met him.
That's kind of cool. In a similar fashion, I went to Dan and now you, and the medicine needs a NutriSense, and hopefully we'll be able to port that over soon. Because we need to be able to engage patients.
Mm-hmm.
We need to be able to engage patients. So hopefully we can work together someday to make that vision a reality. So you start with Dan, and this is 2 years ago, and what's happened with NutriSense since then? Can you walk us through kind of, just the nuts and the bolts? Who is NutriSense? What is NutriSense? What was the vision, and where are you guys now? I know you guys just finished some funding, so congratulations for that.
Yeah. So really, what our bigger vision is to help people realize and reach their health potential. So we're doing that by starting with the continuous glucose monitors and health coaching. So that's something where we think it's really important to combine data with human expertise, because data alone isn't always enough. and especially when the data can be potentially confusing. The last thing I wanted to do was have someone wear one of these CGMs and walk away with the wrong insights or the wrong information. So I think it's important to have some human there to explain the nuance and to kind of help people through their journey. So from day one, we wanted to build this program using continuous glucose monitors, make our own app that's better than what comes with the CGMs now. So if you've used the Libre app, it pretty much just tells you your glucose value. It doesn't give you a whole lot else to work with. And we wanted people to be able to log their meals and activity and other aspects of their health. And we also wanted to include coaching. So all of our programs come with a one-on-one access to a dietitian that you can chat with through the app. And this has been a challenge, but has also been worth it because, as you know, the dietetics profession, I can't just pick any dietitian to bring on my team and help our customers. So been really kind of to find the right dietitians out there, but they are out there. And I think especially with podcasts and people getting the word out, more and more people are coming to the same realizations I am. So with the program, you get that one-on-one dietitian support, and you have the continuous glucose monitor, and then you have the app to kind of track everything you're looking for. So we launched to the public in September of 2019, started taking customers, and then have just grown and fundraised since then. And our bigger picture 5 to 10 year goal is to have other data pieces that help to complement that bigger picture goal of helping someone reach their health potential. So we're exploring what other data points that might be. I think of glucose as kind of the 80-20 rule. It gives you a lot of information. It really helps you in that right direction of health. Glucose isn't just affected by if we're eating carbohydrates or not. As you're aware, our diet in general affects glucose, but also our level of activity or lack of activity, our stress levels, our sleep, our gut health, all of these things that are the core tenets of good health are going to be related to glucose. So it gives us a really good insight into how somebody is doing and helps them reach a unique, wide variety of goals. And then, as you mentioned, we also want to work more with healthcare practitioners to be able to use this in, people who are on the ground trying to make the same type of difference that we're making. And that's where it's, combining that human expertise with the data again, but need the right data and the right way to present it to patients, to customers in order for it to be meaningful and useful. It's really what we're working on.
Yeah, and I think the critical part of that is us working together and having a consistent model, a consistent message. And I think that's a huge problem because one of my patients, she's actually having a lot of success. She told her mom about it. Her mom starts losing weight. Her sugars are improving. Everything's getting better. And then her diabetes educator said, oh my gosh, that's the most dangerous thing you could do. Don't do that. You need to go up on your carb intake. You have to eat 6 times a day. And it's like, oh my gosh, like the lady's improving. She lost 12 pounds or something. And then they're saying it's all wrong. And so the lady, she's a senior citizen, doesn't know. And she's like, oh my gosh, who do I believe? And so I think when you have a unified message, and I think we have to stop fighting against each other and say, okay, look, let's see what's working for the patient and then change course, right? Because we all know it's been a disaster so far for the healthcare system in particular. And
that's a really frustrating story because my hope is that even if somebody's opposed to a CGM or they don't think it's a useful tool or their approach they're using isn't useful, I would hope that if you see the glucose dropping into normal ranges and you see the weight dropping into normal ranges, people would be more open-minded to seeing that, oh, this is working. To then, deny that is really frustrating. So that's why I think it's important to have these conversations. Totally agree. I think everybody should wear a CGM at least once. I don't think everybody needs to be wearing them 24/7, but the amount of information I gained about my own body as someone who's already pretty healthy, already in this space, was so useful that I think everybody could learn something.
Yeah, and I think getting that, go ahead, Tro, sorry.
No, go ahead, age before beauty.
So, one of the things even me being a doctor for 15 years at the time, I started doing low carb keto. All of a sudden my sugars went from 126, 120, going all the way down to 75 or so in the morning. And then all of a sudden it goes to 82, 88. And I'm like, uh-oh, something's wrong. So who do I call? Jason. Funny, I go, Jason, there's something wrong, man. He goes, are you eating more carbs? I'm like, no. And I'm working out. I'm doing everything right. He goes, congratulations, you're fat adapted, right? Because you're kicking out that extra sugar in the morning. So that's something a lot of people are just checking their sugars in the morning and they could be stressed out. But when you look at the overall trend, it looks fantastic.
Yeah, and that's where I think a CGM is so useful. You know, our traditional ways of measuring glucose, you know, you can go get labs and get the fasting glucose and the A1C, which have a bunch of shortcomings we can discuss. But you can also have a glucometer where you can check, you know, these random snapshots. But a CGM is giving you that movie picture. So it's not just a snapshot here and there that might have, you know, nuance to it that you're missing, but instead you're getting this whole picture where you can see, is where's my Achilles heel? Is it that I'm really stressed out and that's driving my overnight glucose up? Or is it the snacking in between meals and I'm never getting down? You can really pinpoint those different nuances and see exactly where your problem might be. And it's just so difficult to get that information from the other traditional metrics that we normally use.
You know, I think one of the problems I see, well, you know, and I'd love to hear about this, because when we approached Abbott, when we went up to Abbott Diabetes, we talked to the head of Abbott Diabetes. When we talked to the head of Abbott Informatics, they said, you are the first medical practice to ask us to integrate with your office. This is like 2 years ago. And I know that they have absolutely no interest with partnering with private industry. So you guys have kind of had to work around the fact that Abbott has no interest in partnering with you guys. How have you dealt with that? And I mean, this is like part of the system, right? So they're device sellers and you guys are solution sellers, right? And there's a disconnect there. And then the other issue I see is, you know, what happens when somebody's blood pressure, you know, tanks, and when they see their blood sugar going really high and they're on medications like a sulfonylurea, they're on blood pressure meds, and now they're reaching out to you and it's like, hey, dietitian, please help me. My blood sugar's full. I feel lightheaded and my blood sugar's tanking. Can you help me with my medications? So what do you guys do at that moment? Who do you guys turn to? I'm imagining you need doctors like Brian and myself to just be able to help you guys manage this stuff, because I'm imagining you have, I don't know, 2,000 people texting your dietitians at 24 hours of the day. How do you guys handle medical issues as they arise? Because that's the natural progression of this, is that it's going to lead to behavior change, which is going to lead to medication change. So I'm really curious on where you guys see that going.
Yeah, and that is something that we have to tell people right off the bat, is that we are dietitians, we are not MDs, we're not physicians, we can't give medical advice, but it does come up. And a lot of times there are related conditions going on that are maybe driving the glucose dysregulation that people aren't as, I guess, aware of. So obviously there's diabetes and there's hypertension, but a lot of people have Hashimoto's or hypothyroidism, and that's related to their glucose dysregulation. Or maybe they have PCOS or some of these other conditions. So there is a fine line between lifestyle and medical advice. And right now we don't have any medical staff available to answer those questions. Instead, we just have to make people aware from the beginning that we're there for the lifestyle help, and that hopefully they have that medical support elsewhere, which we know is lacking, which is why we want to work.
Yeah, and that's why if you had a couple doctors in every state, that would be a great thing, because patients will call them and you have a unified front for people. That's what we've been looking at. We're on the other side of it, saying, gosh, if we only had registered dietitians who got what we're talking about, you know, and cardiologists who understand, and you know, that's
health coaches and
health coaches and all that stuff. So yeah, the worst possible thing we could do is give mixed messages. So the problem is, those patients go to their doctor and they're like, no, glipizide's fine. Keep taking that. You need that for your sugars. Well, their sugars are low. That's what's causing that problem, because they changed their lifestyle and they no longer need it. So deprescribing is like the frontier. Dr. Cazella and I got to work together on a chapter for a book talking about deprescribing. And I was looking for literature. I'm like, there's no literature, because no one's done that. Yeah. No one's thought about, oh, we could take medicines away. It's such a unique topic. So doctors are very hesitant to stop medicines. We're very good at putting them on and go, oh, they've been on this for 20 years, just keep adding to that list, and we just make it 30 medicines long. But taking something away, we get nervous, because once something happens, right?
Yeah, and I completely understand. Right now, our early adopters who we've had are mostly generally healthy. So I wouldn't say that we definitely have people coming to us who have diabetes or on multiple medications, but the majority of our customers so far are relatively healthy. They're looking to kind of optimize, they're looking to learn, they're looking to experiment. And as we're growing and we're getting more and more people of the general population who are on multiple medications, who do have multiple chronic conditions, we are exploring, more of those relationships, because I agree that communication needs to be consistent, or else we're having a failing point.
So how do, I'm just curious, because I mean, it sounds like at some level you're dealing with physicians, because to get them a CGM requires a prescription. So help me understand how you got started kind of with the medical side of this, and where that vision is for the next couple of steps. Like, where do you guys plan on taking that?
Yeah, so right now we just use a physicians network for the prescription piece. So we have some initial information that the client fills out in order to be able to write that prescription. But then we don't have any MDs on staff available to then communicate with the client after they've started and continue that journey. Because right now we're mostly focused on providing that lifestyle approach, that piece. And so as we're continuing, we're trying to figure out who our target ideal customer is. We have a wide variety. And as we see more and more of your average person, and your average person is definitely going to have multiple chronic conditions and need medical support, we are exploring that more. But we don't want to be the company that houses something like Virta, where they have, a lot of physicians on staff and also health coaches, and they are kind of a one house shop. Instead, we want to focus on kind of those partnership arenas and be the housing for the coaching aspect of it. That's the direction right now, as starts
Got it.
Many different
directions. I'm just thinking about I'm just thinking about I don't mean to be critical, but I'm just thinking about I wonder if we could get you guys maybe involved with the Society of Metabolic Health Practitioners, who now has docs in every state, to help you guys out in that initial, because somebody's writing a script. I mean, basically you have some robo doctor right now writing a script to get people CGMs, and I don't know how many refills they're putting, and this doctor doesn't give a crap about that person using the CGM. Where right now, we have actually doctors who care about people and care about their metabolic health.
Well, it doesn't mean they don't care. I mean, I think there's a bigger question here. Is why do I need a prescription for a CGM? Why do I need that? That's a good
point. Yeah.
I have an Apple Watch. I have all this other stuff. Why do I need a prescription for that to see what my sugars are after I eat certain foods?
And
that's the crazy part about it.
Yeah, in France, in Europe, you can go to a CVS and get Abbott Libre over the counter. It's because of the FDA rules that this is considered a medical device, and it could change, but it might not also. And unfortunately, it is considered a medical device right now. But you can buy a glucometer over the counter and prick your finger and draw blood and get that glucose.
Yeah, you can do the same thing. You get a pulse ox and do the same thing. Check your oxygen level. We couldn't do that before. So there's so many tools we have available to us now, and that's what's exciting. But I think that's part of it, is saying, okay, look, you're in Texas. We have 5 doctors in Texas you can call to either get the CGM prescription and then ongoing care, maybe meet with those doctors once a month. And we're looking at those models, because really a lot of people don't have to meet with me and Tro every week like what I do now. If I have educators like what you're doing, that really helps out. And I could see the CGM, I could see what's happening with their meds, their blood pressure. We can monitor everything remotely. So, I think it's just, the tools we have are astounding. It's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, you see it yourself. You had this doctor who couldn't tell anything. So we've created the society so you guys can use it, so now you can support an entire network of people who share a similar vision of health. So hopefully you can reach out to Doug Reynolds, and get connected. And maybe you guys can, we can make good things happen.
But I think the point is too, if people are concerned about their health and they're using your tool, they're not going to be on multiple medications. They're not going to be, having all the sicknesses that we're dealing with. We're trying to reverse the engine's blown and we're trying to fix it. We're trying to do a major overhaul on the engine. You're saying let's do oil changes before you get there. And that's exactly what we have to do to save healthcare. We have to have young, healthy people say, okay, I'm going to keep an eye on this. If we see your insulin going up every year, say, okay, we got to work on this before you get diabetes. So, I'm doing a consulting with a company Vacaville Fruit Company. I'm not sponsored by them, but they're great people and they care about their employees. They go, come in and help them. They need help. And out of 23, I would say at least half are pre-diabetic that are going to get that, like on the fence of diabetes. We're going to prevent that from, they're never going to get the diagnosis if they stick with the program, and we could work and we could support them in that way. But you look at an employer like that, they're smart because their employees are going to be healthier. They're not going to be calling in sick. They're not going to get their foot amputated down the road, right? They don't have to retrain someone else to replace them. So it's a brilliant business move, but they care about their people. They go, we'll cover all the labs, we'll cover the CGM, we'll cover everything, right? Because they care. How many companies are doing that in the world?
Not very many, yeah. That's also an area we're exploring, is kind of the corporate wellness, because there are a few companies, but yeah, it's also difficult to get into just because of the awareness piece, and a lot of people are not there. It's so that different from what the traditional model and traditional approach has been. But back to your point, a lot of our customers are people who've had their first like warning flag, so pre-diabetes, or all of a sudden they're hitting menopause and gaining a bunch of weight, but they're generally healthy. And they're like, I want to stay healthy. And I'm realizing it might be more difficult than it was before, or, I'm hitting this point. A lot of people like hit an age where they're like, my parents started having complications of diabetes at this age, and I want to make sure that doesn't happen to me. But as we grow and grow, we're going to have more people with, more complicated medical situations. So it's certainly been something that we're discussing. So.
Yeah, it's so, you see it, like it's so hard to get good care. You see all these fake apps out there, the Weight Watchers app. You see all these like, I don't know, like Noom, that are really just harmful to most people. And then you have NutriSense, which actually is providing patients with real-time feedback, real information using the CGM. But I think you're right. The next step is, combining that with medical care. Why should you, just like you shouldn't get a crappy app, you shouldn't settle for crappy doctors, when you have awesome doctors available to you. So I'm really hoping we can do great things between NutriSense and SMHP and beyond. So where's the next step for you guys? Are you analyzing the data? Are you, artificial intelligence? I mean, you got to be thinking about these things, right, to help people. What's the next step for you guys?
Yeah, definitely working towards more AI, automatic insights, pattern recognition. It takes a while for you to get enough data to start being able to do that. So we're getting to that turning point where we're starting to get enough data that we can think about that more seriously. So that is kind of a top priority for the next 12 months, is what our engineering team is focused on, is more automatic insights to make it easier and easier to pick up these different patterns. And that's another reason that a lot of people go to their doctors and they show them the CGM data and they're like, I don't know what that means. Like, you do need to be trained in this. You do need to have experience looking at the data. And that's another reason that there's other CGM companies out there that it's just the app, it's just the hardware. And I think that that's potentially dangerous too, is when there's no human to answer questions. There's nobody there. You can't go to your doctor maybe and ask them either. You can't go to a traditional dietitian and probably ask them. So having that human expertise, we still always want to have as part of the experience, but working on adding more and more kind of AI is certainly the goal.
Yeah, I think that's all critical. And I think, the other thing that I love that you mentioned was lifestyle. It's not just what you're eating. If you're stressed, you're tense, you're not sleeping, you're going to see that on the CGM. I see, one of my ladies, she had a huge spike and I go, what'd you do? And, joking with her. And she goes, I was fighting with my husband in the garage because he was like throwing away all my stuff or something. I go, don't fight with your husband. Look, it's bad for your sugars, right? And the husband called me. He's like, hey, thanks, man. I appreciate that, right? But it's kind of making the point. A lot of people go around, and I'm telling you, I can kind of look and see who's going to have troubles on the program. The stressed out, middle-aged, menopausal real estate agent who's like stressed all day. And they're like, I'm doing everything right. I'm not losing weight. It's like, relax, take a breath for a minute, take a breath and just step back and get away from the scale. Let's get on track. And so there's a huge mental aspect of all this stuff too. And I think seeing your sugars improve mentally is so great for people when they see, oh my goodness, look, I was doing all this crazy stuff. Now it's flattening out. And and when they understand the concept, they do really well.
sleep, especially with sleep, right? I mean, like you see it with sleep disturbance right away, or stress. We've seen lawyers with, in the middle of their oral arguments, that their stress will drive their sugar up, or an intense workout. Sleep deprivation is very huge, very, very huge. I think those are the biggest thing. And then, that reactive hypoglycemia leading to people to eat more and leading people to feel really lousy. I mean, all of these important things, it can't just be, and all blood sugar is not equal. Is the blood sugar of doing sprints the same as the blood sugar from a cupcake? I'm not really sure.
Yeah, if we had a continuous insulin monitor, then we would know, right? We would look at that and go, wow, look, your insulin drops. And, so I think there's so many things we're learning. But I think to our point that we're talking about, the reason is, like, as well as I do, Tro, right now on Twitter, there's wars about whether to eat more fat, more protein. There's wars about calories in, calories out versus insulin model, all this stuff. It's like, really, if you don't get the brain right, it doesn't matter. And what we see on a low carb keto, the surprising thing we see is anxiety, stress, sleep getting better. And you get those better, then your stress hormones go down. That's why I'm saying it's the big picture. It's not just what you're eating. How many calories? 500 calories. If you eat 500 calories of gummy bears versus 500 calories of salmon, it's going to be a different physiologic effects. And so you can't say that the hormones don't play a role. I mean, it's just, to me, it's insanity, because we see it we see everything we track says, hey, if you're stressed intense, maybe it's not a good time to try to lose weight.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
100%. Like, we always say, like, data over dogma, because as soon as you see it, that the hormones have to play a role, because it's so obvious from the data and from the success stories or patient stories that you're seeing that these things are just as important. We're talking about stress and sleep probably just as much as we're talking about diet, because it's such a huge aspect of glucose control and also being able to reach your goals. It's one of what we call the 4 pillars of glucose control. And a lot of people want to push sleep and stress to the side, and they're like, just tell me what to eat, or, just tell me what to do at the gym. And it's like, you're not going to be able to reach your goals if we don't address this as well. And another thing related to, you were talking about kind of the emotional behavior change, mental aspect to it. For a lot of people, so much of what they're doing, like weighing themselves on the scale, all this has an emotional connection to it. Whereas for glucose monitoring, a lot of that emotion can be removed. It doesn't have as much, attachment to it. So somebody can see, oh, my glucose is higher, I need to do this, or I need to actually take stress into account. It leads towards these healthy behaviors, but without so much emotion and stress wrapped around that number, that data. And then just that feedback, that continuous loop really drives people to behavior change. And that's the most important thing at the end of the day. Like, can you be consistent? Is this something that's sticky? How are these habits actually working in your life in a big picture plan? And that's why we have to take into account, the mental aspect, the behavior change aspect, just as much as the actual plan.
Amy, from our practice, Amy Igus, one of our health coaches, she always says that scale is like an evil metal box, right? And in the beginning, Brian said this so many times, don't focus on the scale in the beginning. Don't focus on it. Focus on the CGM. It gives you immediate feedback. It tells you how you're doing. So we absolutely love that CGM as a feedback tool. I've had patients use NutriSense and absolutely love it. So we're very happy to support you guys. Go out there, get NutriSense. It's a great app. It shows you things. It lets you log things, take pictures of food. I mean, I've used it extensively. It's just one of the best out there in terms of really getting a handle of your blood glucose. And the way that you get to that human element, I think that's important too. And in fact, we have one of our longtime, supporters here mentioning using the app, and apparently one of the dietitians actually recommended following you and me, Brian. So, so they can't be all that bad, I guess, right?
No, there's a lot of great people out there. I think we're not at war with anyone, really. I mean, there's a lot of great people, but I think you have to have an open mind and say, let's see what works and what doesn't work. I think every dietitian should have a CGM on themselves for educational purposes. You should know this is your career. I mean, you should be able to see the effects of stress and not sleeping and all that. Then you can help your patients more, because I had to do it myself, and so did Tro. That's why we speak with some authority on this, because we've done it. We've looked at it and go, yeah, I'm stressed out all the time. That's why I left my other job. I was stressed 24/7. It's like, it's not worth it. enjoy life a little bit, have fun a little bit. It's not, you don't have to kill yourself with work. That's why we're the number one, physicians are the number one career to commit suicide right now, right? Because it's not working, guys. It's just not working, and you can't be stressed and sacrifice everything and not help people. And it's a really, really tough point. So that's why I'm excited about all these new tools coming out, what you're doing to be able to help people, because no one, as an example, I mean, we hate to talk about these things, but one of my patients came in morbidly obese. In 3 months, we reversed his diabetes. He was not diabetic, but he was 6.4, pretty as close as you can get. All this stuff is better, but his mentor, who he loves, that helped him a lot, has poorly controlled diabetes. His doctor kept putting him on more and more insulin. He had bilateral below the knee amputation. Now he said, you know what, doc, I'm taking him for above the knee amputation today, right? Because he can't control the infection. And you say, gosh darn it. His doctor wanted to be the nice guy and go, eat whatever you want, we'll give you more insulin. But it wasn't the nice guy when you don't have legs anymore. And that's what Tro and I see. And that's why we have a passion for what we do. And you go, and this guy is, my patient says, I'm so upset with his doctor. I go, look, he thought that was the right thing to do. He wasn't trying to cause harm, but people just don't realize you have to have a paradigm shift at some point. When you see things like this is not inevitable for people. And that's what gives us hope to say, hey, if you buy in, we'll support you in that. We can do it. And we have tools like yours to help support us. There's nothing better than that.
Yeah, the amputations are so common. It's the most sad, frustrating stories to see. Who wants to have their leg amputated? There's nothing more extreme, and it could be something that's preventable. That's something we saw in the ICU all the time, people having to come in for amputations or, uncontrolled wounds from their diabetes. And it's just really frustrating, really sad. So hopefully more and more people start to become aware of this in the healthcare industry, and totally agree that if this was part of training for dietitians, but also physicians, we have a lot of healthcare professionals actually who are using our app because they want to better help their patients, which I find really inspiring. So they're out there. I think the conversations are happening. It's starting to turn. But obviously there's a lot of work still to be done. But with our dietitians, they of course wear CGMs for 2 months. The first 2 months they're on and have extensive training, but we hire them specifically if they have the mindset of being open-minded, being curious, being willing to try different things and see what works and what doesn't work, rather than following kind of the dogma that is out there.
One of the problems we've faced, when we look to hire coaches, doctors, PAs, MPs, is really understanding metabolic health. And that's another reason, Brian and I we work with the Society of Metabolic Health Practitioners, which has that certification now for dietitians and doctors and PAs and MPs, because we really need to make sure. I don't think there's a way you don't want to hire somebody who doesn't know this.
Yeah.
Right. And so and prior to, Doug Reynolds really, holding the wild animal by the reins and making this happen, bringing up the SMHP, there's nobody, right? I mean, there's really nobody. You can go through dietetics and all you can learn is low fat and, whole grains. So hopefully you can encourage your dietitians to consider, the SHMP certification and education. Because that's our goal. We need to create an army of people who know what NutriSense is showing, which is metabolic health.
Or people listening right now, right? Reach out to you, reach out to Doug. I mean, there's so many great things, because that's how we connect people. That's why, Tro, we did this podcast for a bunch of reasons to help the people who are totally lost and at the end of the rope, but also for other practitioners to know, there's another way that we could do. And we hear the success stories of all these docs around the country and around the world, and the impact they're making. They're enjoying their job. I know Dr. Unwin loves going to work. He was going to be retired. He would have retired years ago if he didn't have low carb and be able to help people. And so, I think it's important. There's a lot of people out there listening that say, I would love to help people and do this kind of stuff. So, it's a good job. It's a good career path. Trust me, I love it.
So how do people hear us, people hear Brian, enthusiastic about NutriSense? They hear your story and kind of what you've done, being a pioneer entrepreneur. One, how do they get started with NutriSense? Then two, how do they find you if they want to chat with you on social media or something like that? How do they do that?
Yeah, so to sign up for the program, you would just go to our website, which is nutrisense.io. And from there, you fill out that quick health questionnaire, as I mentioned, and then we take care of everything else. So writing prescriptions, sending you the devices, getting you set up. We have different programs depending on what you're looking for. We have non-recurring 1 CGM option if you just want to try it. You want to see a snapshot for 2 weeks and see how your metabolic health looks. And then we also have recurring monthly programs if you want to do it for a little bit longer, or if you are ready to commit and go all in. And then to kind of chat with me, I am on all social medias at Kara Collier1. And then we're also on social media for NutriSense.io, where we're putting out, content, stories of how people are using the CGMs, what they're learning. Blog content is coming out regularly on our website as well, kind of diving into these different things that we're learning that may not be as prevalent as they should be.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't wait. I'm hoping we can work together further. I absolutely love the app, and it sounds like you guys need us, and we need you, certainly.
Yeah, super excited to see kind of where the potential lies, and it's always awesome and refreshing and exciting to talk to other people in the healthcare profession who have the same mission, have the same goals, really want to help people, and are doing it in a way that's meaningful. So always great to connect.
Yeah, and thanks for coming. Thanks for joining
let's open it up.
Hey.
Let's open up to questions. Patreon supporters, if you have a question, let's do it now.
And while we're waiting for questions to come in, I want to do a quick shout out to Ben Bickman from Health Code. He is awesome. I'm helping out these people in Northern California, and he's sending free stuff over there. That company is awesome. He was I'll educate Brian. What can I do to help? I want to be part of that, right? Hopefully Rosettes. Tro, do you have any connections over there with the Rosettes?
I don't know. It depends on what
They need some help in their break room. It's a disaster.
Depends on if look. We're happy to send it. I'll send it myself. Right, so you let me know what I need to do, and I'll show up and I'll send it.
And Simply Snack and sending stuff over there to help. I mean, so many awesome people just wanting to help. Keto Mojo said, "Hey, what do they need? We're close by. We'll drive over there and we'll help them with it." Ketone meters because people can't afford them, and we'll drop some off. And so all these great people, I don't get paid by any of these people. I'm just saying I am sponsored my other podcast by Simply Snacking, but she goes, what can I do to help? Yeah, we'll just take care of it. So it's so cool when people just jump out of the woodwork. So anyone else who wants to jump in, let me know. I'll be glad to mention you guys here because
I know somebody who's got access to a bunch of CGMs. So maybe we can help you out. Yeah. Who knows?
So do we have any questions coming in, or will we answer them all adequately? Because then you can't complain to us that we didn't ask the right questions this time.
Oh, I know, right? A lot of people come and say, "Tro, you know what? I want to read this because." This is from a longtime supporter here, okay? And I'm going to answer it live here. Basically, Alana says, I was on NutriSense, for 6 months. I was very impressed with the app and the dietitian support. The dietitian gave me extensive follow-up and even included references to studies. That's awesome. She supported my low carb approach, mostly carnivore diet. And she was also supportive of me following Dr. Tromenlenskis. That's how you know there's something really wrong with them.
Yeah.
That's how you know this. And then I guess another question, do you take Medicare? Probably the answer is no, I'm guessing, right?
We do not, but we do accept HSA and FSA accounts if you have those. So a lot of people will use that.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, that's really important. Yeah. And a lot of employers out there will do that. Because they know they're smart.
It's growing as an option for many people. So we have a ton of people utilizing that.
So I'm going to answer this, but it's, do you have tips on how to get that darn CGM to stay on for the entire 14 days?
Yeah.
Right. You got to get a Band-Aid from Amazon, or if you get it through NutriSense, I know they give to those Band-Aids that go right over it. So you just got to get, they have Band-Aids on Amazon, you could get it, or if you get it through NutriSense, I think you guys include that black Band-Aid, right?
Yeah. We include a bandage to cover it. And like you said, there's many options on Amazon you can also order. There's also through 3M, you can get like the little adhesive wipes that you would put on the skin before you place the CGM. And I personally use those instead of the bandage. And they work really well. I play beach volleyball and land on it and it sticks on for me. But some people just seem to have slippier skin. I don't know if you've noticed that. There would be people where it's 2 days on and it falls off. Where me at the end of 14 days, I can barely I'm ripping it off.
Yeah, you're ripping it off. Yeah.
skin?
I've done both. I've not, when I first got it though, I just knocked it off all the time, taking my shirt off or running into the, doing laundry, running into the door jam. You're like, oh, dang it.
Yeah. So definitely
Shoot.
the bandage, adhesive wipe. And then when you're putting it on, making sure that like the skin is clean and dry. You didn't like just get out of the shower. And if you're a male, sometimes people will even like shave the back of their arm a little bit if it's kind of getting stuck or there's a lot of hair in your arm. So
Oh, geez.
not everyone has that issue.
Yeah, you're done.
Yeah,
I'm
I have
good.
this terrible issue. It just goes straight up. It goes straight up. So I have to shave.
Hey, has anyone had problems with adhesive allergies? I've seen that a couple times.
Yeah, we've seen that a couple times.
Just kind of a drag. There's nothing you can really do about it, right?
Yeah, there is
hydrocortisone and
what we've had. Yeah, so some people will squirt Flonase on it and then put the CGM on, and that actually works really well if you're having irritation. And there's another thing where it's just like a clear bandage. You put that on the skin first and then put the CGM on over it, and the adhesive is sticking to the bandage. So I can send you guys links to that.
Oh yeah, and then you just put the Band-Aid a different type over it or something. Yeah. All right, cool.
Patty,
Yeah,
you got your hand up. Let's see. Oh, we got another question here. Okay, Patty's got her hand up. Maybe we'll get to her in a second. One more question from Steve. I was pre-diabetic on keto for several years, lost 30 pounds, insulin now 3 and A1C low and triglycerides normalized. My PCP said he'd ordered insulin level, but he couldn't interpret it. He laughed when he said it. I'm glad he ordered it, and he has a sense of humor. I explained the science to him. Okay, he's just saying his doc's listening now. He was intrigued, so he's got a curious doc. That's what Steve.
Cool doc. That's good. Yeah, just say, I don't know what the heck to do with it. I'll order if you want it. I don't know what to do. That's an honest answer rather than saying no. And I like a doctor like that. He goes, okay, I'll learn. I'll go read about it and see what it means. Because once they get it, they're going to be, they'll see, they'll be able to see the success with patients. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think that's all the questions we have for today. We got a big bunch here, over 20 people live, and then this will go out, just so you know, probably in a month or so, and we'll let you know when it's released. We'll send it to Dan and you, and hopefully, we get some people using your great app.
Yeah. Awesome.
And thanks for joining us. We appreciate that. And I've seen the app. No one ever sent me one, Troy. You get all the cool stuff. I'm just the old guy over here on the West Coast. No one loves us over here. But
well,
I've had some people. I'm gonna mess around with it. I'm gonna mess around and take a look.
Between you and me, I think we have like 45 states covered. So
Yeah, I have one. How many you got? 44. Good.
Yeah,
perfect.
44. So they could probably.
I might try to get Arizona. I got Ben Bikiki
so that
over there.
Means we'll have 46 states to help write scripts for.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Listen, it's been a pleasure. And Kara, thanks for putting up with my teasing and my poking and prodding. This has been awesome. We love the NutriSense app. And Brian, it's always been a pleasure. And
yeah, thanks so much.
supporters, thank you. Thank you so much for making this happen. Commercial free. Yeah, except for Brian's little commercial there, but that's pretty much commercial free.
That was just shout out to nice people helping us, man. Doing good stuff for free. I love that. I'll always mention that because I think it's so important.
Yeah, all those people. We're transitioning to Simply Snacking. By the way, we used to buy Chomps in our office, but we're going to transition to Simply Snacking to support you, to support Chris. Very happy to get people, to support companies that are doing good things. When I saw them donating, I was like, you know what? There's no reason why we shouldn't also support them. We're big with Keto Mojo. We've linked completely up with Keto Mojo. Highly support them. Health Code, absolutely love them. Ben Bickman. So I'm going to echo everything you're saying. And I have no financial relationships with any of them. So 100%. And now we got NutriSense here, who maybe will throw some CGMs in. You never know, Brian.
Yeah, you never know, man.
Yeah,
we already got them now for this batch, but there's gonna be more coming.
Yeah, we know a couple people over there.
No,
guys, thank you so much.
All right.
Everyone.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. Thanks for just for supporting us. We really appreciate it, and we're having fun along the way, and hopefully we can help a lot of people. So if we see good tools like this, we're gonna bring it to you, and then you decide.
Kara, you get the last words. Go ahead. Any last words?
Yeah, I would just leave with trying to also put the same mindset in people and any healthcare practitioners that are listening of being open-minded, like approach things with curiosity. What we're taught or what worked last month or what worked with one patient isn't going to be what works for everybody. So I think if more people can approach how they help people and how they think about problems with an open mind and with a state of curiosity, then we're all going to be in a better place.
Amen. Love it.
Amen to that. 2 amens from us. Hey everyone, I wanted to let you know about an upcoming conference that really had a huge impact on me, that's helped me on my journey and helped me to really understand metabolic health and what we're doing to make people healthier. And so I have my friend Doug Reynolds, who's the boss, who's putting on this conference. So Doug, tell us about the conference that's coming up, Low Carb USA San Diego. I love it because it's right next to my house and I get to sleep in my own bed and come, but maybe I get to stay in a hotel this time, I don't know, and I get to speak. So man, it's awesome that we get to all meet up together and build community. We all know how important that is. So Doug, welcome. Tell people about what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, thanks, Brian. You know, it's really exciting to be able to do it in person again. I think there's so many people out there that are just clamoring to be able to talk to people again and give someone a hug and just collaborate like you know, has become so predominant in all the other events that we've done before this COVID thing hit. One of the things that's come up since when COVID hit, we couldn't do it. So then we flipped over and did virtual versions of the San Diego event and the Boca one. And we had a lot of people actually sign up and become a part of that. And so what it has done for us now is make us understand that the live stream component can be very effective for people that can't make it to the event. So this is a proper live event, and I think I want to make this very clear to people that I think they think it's like that. So many people have asked how many of the talks are going to be virtual and how many are going to be in person. And the answer is every single one is going to be in person. So we will have a live stream component. People will be able to access it via live stream, but all the speakers will be there in person. Anybody that hasn't been able to make it obviously just hasn't made it into the lineup. And I think that's really important, and it's really exciting that we've got all of these people coming out. And some really good names, you know. Gary Taubes has been a stalwart with us. He's like always supported us. The first guy to say, you know, let's do this. You obviously, Rob Sivers, Tro, Tony Hampton, Brett Scher, Dr. Ben, Amy Berger, Diana Rogers. I'm really excited that she's, you know, on the sustainability side. I'm really excited that she's able to make it this time. We've been trying to get her to an event of ours for a while, and this is the first time. Andrea Salcido is a really, really amazing. She did one of the Grand Rounds talks for our SMHP, and she's a gynecologist. We've had a lot of comments from people from the feedback forms and stuff saying that you should get a gynecologist in. So now we have. You know, Michelle Hearn was a potentially Olympic athlete who just like crashed and burned on carbs, and she's a dietitian, and she found keto and eventually basically carnivore, and it's cured her to the extent where she's training for the Olympics again. But she wrote this book called Dietitian's Dilemma, because, you know, everything that she'd learned as a dietitian she wasn't doing anymore in order to make herself healthy again. And so it's really cool to have, you know, a real dietitian's perspective of the problems that they have. She's basically left that vocation because she just couldn't function in the hospital environment, and that where she was. She was not allowed to speak to people about low carb. And so that's a fascinating story. Dr. Gurpreet Pada, I think you might have even had him on.
Yeah, he's doing amazing stuff with pain management.
He's just one of the most incredible people.
Yeah, amazing.
Marco Cazella is. I don't think, you know,
he's a legend.
At least in this one.
Yeah, he's a legend. I worked with him in Prescribing, the textbook chapter, and he's phenomenal. And he's struggled with metabolic disease, even though he's a long distance runner, and he was able to get soda out of the hospitals that he's affiliated with, and that's a huge task.
Yeah,
that's a huge money maker. So yeah, so many great people, and I think the big thing is just being able to sit down. I know. For me, being at Low Carb USA, the first time I was able to sit down and have a cup of coffee with some great leaders that were just there, and they just are there to talk. And so there's so much great information. Anyone else we need to talk about, Doug?
Well, Steve Finney's is the latest addition to the lineup. I've been chatting with him for a while now, managed to get him on board. Dave Feldman as well. He wasn't sure if he was going to be able to talk because of this research that he's got going on, that he might not have been able to actually speak in public. Arthur Agatston, I think, is going to be fascinating. I did a podcast interview with him the other day. I didn't even know until very recently, but he's the guy that discovered or defined the calcium score. It's actually known as
his name.
score. Yeah.
And the South Beach diet. He's done so much
Correct.
work. I mean, he's always trying to make people healthy. He's doing a lot. Yeah. So yeah, it's just great the amount of talent you pulled in, you know.
And we've got amazing. The whole, you know, for those people that know about the SMHP, which is kind of the other hat that I put on, the other organization that I run, that nonprofit, pretty much the entire board of directors for that is going to be at this event, either speaking or at least present. And then, you know, the other committees, we've got the panel of advisors for the clinical guidelines. You're on that panel. It's just, there are so many, it's just going to be so many fascinating conversations that are going to go on over that weekend. I can't wait.
Yeah, and it's just, and you're also bringing a lot of vendors, like Keto Mojo is always there, and a lot of good people. Yeah. And so try different products, and you know, there's some great Restore program who's doing some great work through your program and really getting it out to the masses. There's so many great people coming out, so I would highly recommend it. And I worked out a deal with Doug because I want people that, you know, sometimes finance is a issue for people. So I said, Doug, look, my people need a discount, our people need a discount. So what do you work out for us, Doug?
So yeah, we've got it. If you use the code LowCarbMd, it gives you 20% off every, and it's not just the ticket. For those people that sign up for the dinners, for those people that require a CME certificate, whatever they add, whatever their purchase is, the total amount, that 20% comes off that total. In the past, when we gave discounts, it came just off the ticket price. But it's not that great a guy. It's actually just that it's easier for me to manage. To take it off the total, but yeah, as a result, everyone else scores, right? So
that helps too. And then is that for people who come in person and online also?
Correct. Yeah. Right. So whatever is in your cart, basically, that discount comes off the total. And the other thing is, one of the options in the upgrade options. So if you only buy the ticket now, you can upgrade and buy the VIP dinners later if you want to join us. Or you can, if you signed up for the live stream and you wanted to upgrade to in person, because now you realize, hey, everybody's traveling and actually I think I can do this. Then you can still use that code on your upgrade options as well. So you can still get 20% off. If you decide later. So if you buy the live stream and later, you know, in beginning of August, you decide you want to actually come in person, you can utilize that code again then for the upgrades, and they will apply, which doesn't happen for anybody else. So.
And what are the dates?
26th to 29th of August.
Awesome. And it'll be live. And if you want to stay in your hotel, I think, can you live stream it from your computer wherever you're at?
Yeah, so that's the thing, is it didn't used to be like that either, but you know, I think every time we do this, we improve it. So now somebody that's in person has access to the live stream as well. So if they want to watch part of it, you know, in their room or something, they can. We would really prefer that they come down and you know, sit in the audience, but if for some reason that's not possible, they can watch it, or they miss something, they can go back and watch that evening or something. They can, you know, watch a talk that they missed or something like that. And then they get access. They get access to those recordings after the event, and then within about 2 weeks, we normally are able to get all the individual videos of the talks populated on that site as well, and they have access to that forever. So
yeah, it's great education. I think being able to, because even being there, I've had times where I want to interview someone or just spend time with someone because they're coming from South Africa or something, and I miss a talk, and I was like, oh shoot, I want to see that one, and so it really does free you up to say, okay, I'll hybrid. You can sit and go down. You can talk to people. You can watch it later that night or on the weekend, because a lot of us are really busy. So that is outstanding. I'm really glad. That's a huge improvement for sure. And in some of those talks, you're going to want to watch it a couple of times to make sure you absorb it all, so you don't have to feel like you have to take notes. And Doug hates people taking pictures in the meetings because it's distracting, for people behind them. So you'll have access to the talk, the PowerPoints and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's really huge. So hey, everyone, thank you. I think this is a huge thing. The reason I had Doug on, we have no financial interests. It's really just because I know the benefit of this and how it can help people trying to live a better life and getting on track. And I know it helped me immensely and changed the course of my life, really. So Doug, thanks for all you're doing and continue to do. And you're making a massive impact. So Low Carb USA San Diego, I would highly recommend everyone come out.
Appreciate that, Brian. And thank you for what you're doing. I mean, it all started at one of our meetings many years ago, but I'm so glad that you made it to that meeting, because you're doing great things now too. Thank you.
Hey, I get some good South African food out of it sometimes, so it's all good. So hey, everyone, hey, thank you for listening and thank you for your continued support.